I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime, and this is Currents.
The economy may show signs of improvement, but the need is still great in parts of Brooklyn.
In our food pantry, which encompasses mostly the working poor, we've seen an 85% increase in the number of people.
Why build a new church when there's one 1,000 miles away? We'll find out. And the gay marriage debate goes all the way to Rome. We'll tell you what the Pope had to say. Well, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Well, some promising news for job seekers. The unemployment rate fell below 10% last month.
That is good news, but there is still plenty of cause for concern locally right around here. According to the latest data, the jobless rate in Brooklyn was more than 11%. That is higher than the unemployment rate for the entire city.
But many people are still keeping up hope and doing what they can to help, including the people over at St. John's Bread and Life. Now, founded back in 1982, the organization serves over 2,000 meals to hungry New Yorkers each day.
This Wednesday, they're going to be hosting a fundraising dinner, and I recently had a chance to talk about that with St. John's Bread and Life Executive Director Anthony Butler. Tony, thanks so much for joining us on Currents today. Well, Friday, the day we're taping this interview, the unemployment numbers were released. 97% unemployment, a little better than expected, but maybe still not reflective of what's really going on in the economy.
Right. I mean, the stats came out, the unemployment dropped from 10% to 9.7%. One of the things with unemployment, it's a lagging indicator that only accounts for the people who are actively looking for jobs and are currently unemployment. And particularly the folks we serve at Bread and Life, we significantly see a higher unemployment because unemployment more profoundly affects the lower economic bracket than the upper economic bracket. We've seen in our statistics from 2008 to 2009 in our food pantry, which encompasses mostly the working poor, we've seen an 85% increase in the number of people receiving services. And in our social service department, and working on housing, employment, food stamps, and Medicaid, we've seen a 73% increase in the number of folks needing our services. So the need is still definitely out there.
It's still very great. And that's why St. John's Bread and Life is trying to put together this effort on Wednesday at Abigail's here in Brooklyn. Tell us a little bit about this fundraiser.
This fundraiser, Show Your Heart for Hunger, is a Brooklyn-based fundraiser at Abigail's, 807 Classen Avenue, right near the Brooklyn Museum. And it's both an opportunity to learn about Bread and Life, and I think also to capture what Brooklynites know and Catholic Brooklyn knows about that sense of giving back, and that sense of the opportunity to give back, and that sense of the obligation to give back. And it'll be a nice night. It's an evening for $30. People can, it'll be wine and hors d'oeuvres, and really learning about what we can do to make this borough better.
Because it's still winter, it's cold out,
cold.
You know, things are bleak. A lot of people are still, as we said, unemployed and struggling. And the people that attend, what are they going to get out of this? What can they expect to enjoy besides the wine? I know $30 isn't know that much to spend for a nice night out.
It will be a pleasant night out. I think what they will take away from it is learn of the opportunities to kind of deal with the things we all want to do. That we want to make a difference, that we recognize that we have a social contract with other people, that if we are Catholic, we have this obligation, as in St. Matthew, to clothe the naked, to feed the hungry, and that's what we will be judged on. So they will learn that, and they will learn, too, that the folks we serve are not others. They're not those folks out there. They are our neighbors. We have, it's an interesting statistic, that 69% of the folks we serve come for only approximately 40 days and then leave for a year. So it's episodic. Something happens in their life, and they need some help.
And they take some time to repiece their life back together. And the fundraiser, you said earlier, it's going to be fun. You have like raffles and
it's
different kind of prizes.
Right, there'll be an Italian basket of cheer, basket of lotto tickets. It's a little bit of it's my own background. It's that kind of Catholic fundraising kind of world.
That's all good. That's all good. How much money do you think you might raise, or how much are you hoping to raise?
We're hoping to raise about $7,000.
Okay. So it's a reasonable amount. And you serve about 400,000 meals, I guess, to people annually. And what do you think that this will do? What kind of a chunk will this take out of that for you this year?
If I could do the math quickly, I mean, our average cost, I know, is it's $1.95 per meal. So we'll call it $2, and we'll say it'll make about 4,000 meals.
Okay, that's great. So you're really going to help families that are in need right now. And I know this isn't the only event that you have every year. This is the second annual that you're doing at Abigail's, but you also have other kinds of events. Tell us about some of those.
We have other events. We have a thing called Rush Hour Against Hunger at Grand Central Terminal. It'll be May 29th. that once again allows folks to participate. We have a thing called Johnny's Angels, which celebrates the folks who serve in every November at St. John's University.
Okay.
And we are doing a thing with the Brooklyn Cyclones this summer. That will be a
I know
small,
them. I threw out a first pitch for them.
That's good. I'm a season ticket holder.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
So we'll be doing that, all with that sense of bringing Brooklyn together. And one of the things for these Brooklyn-based events, through the generosity of Brooklyn Community Foundation, they are matching people's donations.
This is critical, is that if you go and you attend these events and you contribute to this organization, Brooklyn Community Foundation matches that money. That means you're getting double your money's worth, which is so terrific that they're there. Yeah. And the other thing that's worth mentioning, too, is you were saying this off camera, is that you're segmenting all the events. So there's something for everyone. Right. So you don't have to attend the one you don't want to go. If you want to go to the highfalutin fancy one, you can. And if you want to go just grab a drink after work in Grand Central, you can do that too. And you can also still help feed these folks in our community. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being with us here today on Currents 20. We appreciate it. And I will see you on Wednesday because I'll be there.
Great.
And we'll have a lot more on that fundraising dinner and event later on this week.
But stay tuned. When Currents returns, we'll have the day's headlines, including another twist in the tale for a group of American missionaries in Haiti. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Coming up just a bit later, we'll introduce you to a football player for the Super Bowl champion New Orleans Saints, who takes community outreach and his faith pretty seriously.
All right, but first let's check the day's headlines. A lawyer for 10 American missionaries being held on kidnapping charges in Haiti is no longer on the job. Now, there are conflicting reports as to whether Edwin Koch quit or was fired. Koch told CNN he quit the job, but the lawyer who gave him the job in the first place is accusing Koch of bribery. Jorge Puello says Koch orchestrated some kind of extortion with the government officials for the release of 9 of those missionaries. Koch says the $60,000 he requested from the missionaries' families was his fee. As the Haitian capital of Port-au-Prince slowly emerges from beneath the rubble of last month's earthquake, aid groups are launching an emergency vaccination campaign in the city. The Red Cross and other groups will be vaccinating 140,000 people to protect them from measles and other diseases. The Red Cross says it's focusing on Port-au-Prince because the disease risk to earthquake victims there is greatest. Well, it has been nearly a month since the massive earthquake struck Haiti, and for many people, it looks like there's no end in sight to the suffering. But for a few hours this past weekend, the power of music at one church gave many Haitians hope. John Voss has the story.
There's not much left of St. Trinity's Music School in Port-au-Prince. Even less, it seems, of the school's instruments. But for the teachers, who also make up most of Haiti's Philharmonic, more than 3 weeks without music, well, that was more than enough. So in a still-standing church on Friday, they rehearsed for what would be Haiti's first concert since the earthquake. So
well, they're musicians. You know that musicians, there's not many things that we can do other than play our instruments.
They chose the drug and gang-riddled slum of Bel Air, a community centre where thousands are living in tents. When the tarp went up and the chairs put out, many here didn't know what to expect. This is my first time at a show, says this woman. It was a tough crowd, though. Some complained they needed food, not music. A concert's not important. We need so many other things. The situation is so bad, says this man. But Bernadette Williams, who plays and teaches cello, explained this was food for the soul.
Or people have no dream because they stop to live. So maybe this concert is important for them.
And then the concert began, first a choir, then a brass group with a uniquely Haitian version of Amazing Grace. And by the time the strings came out, a large crowd had gathered. Amid all the rubble and destruction, it seems the misery of the quake was put on hold for just a few hours.
That's CNN's John Voss reporting in Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
Sunday marked the beginning of National Marriage Week USA. Faith-based and pro-family groups across the country marked the occasion with a call for the strengthening of marriage and promotion of ways to do it. Reports say organizers want to bring about change in the U.S. as the percentage of married adults is declining and the percentage of children born out of wedlock is on the rise. National Marriage Week will wrap up on Valentine's Day. Well, marriage was also on the mind of Pope Benedict today. As he addressed a special gathering at the Vatican, the pontiff spoke out in favor of traditional marriages and united families. We get more now from H2O News.
To protect children and denounce the abuses committed against them was Benedict XVI's exhortation in his speech to participants in the plenary assembly of the Pontifical Council for the Family on February 8th. The Pope praised the Council's projects dedicated to the education of engaged couples. The family, founded on marriage between a man and a woman, the Holy Father said, is the greatest help that can be given to children. A troubled family environment, the division of the parents, and in particular separation through divorce, are not without consequences for children. Supporting the family and promoting its true good, its rights, its unity and stability, the Pope concluded, is the best way to protect the rights and the real needs of children.
And finally, a fast-growing order of nuns will be making a big splash on the national airwaves tomorrow. The Dominican Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist, will be guests on Oprah on the day that just happens to be the 13th anniversary of that congregation. The sisters have been in the spotlight because of their growth, their devout orthodoxy, and their youth. Reports say the average age of the sisters is just 26, and the average age of their postulants is 21. The order has around 100 members, and their mother house is filled to capacity.
Hitting the big time there. We'll stay tuned. There's more Currents coming up straight ahead. Just ahead, an old church up north may soon be a new church down south.
Welcome back. Well, it's no secret that a lot of Catholic parishes all around the country are closing or consolidating. It's already happened to dozens of churches from New Orleans to Boston to Cleveland, all around the country. And it will be happening right here in Brooklyn in the months to come as well, unfortunately. But it raises an interesting question. What do you do with a church that has closed?
It is an interesting question, and they've actually come up with a novel solution up in upstate New York, where there are plans to physically move a Catholic church that's closed. That's right, they'll actually transport it hundreds of miles to the south to the Archdiocese of Atlanta. And to get an idea of how all of this would work, I spoke earlier on in the day with the man who is spearheading the effort, Father David Dye. He's the administrator of Mary Our Queen Parish in Norcross, Georgia. Well, Father Dye, thank you so much for joining us today here on Currents. We appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Well, now I understand that you're moving a church. It's kind of an interesting thing. You're moving this church from New York all the way down to Georgia, to the Atlanta area there in Norcross. How in the world are you guys going to do this? I guess when I first heard about this, I imagined a big flatbed truck with a church on the back of it heading down 285, but something tells me that might not be the case.
Not actually, because, when they move things like that, you have to lift the wires up and all that. No, it's not going to be like that. It's actually, we are taking it apart and reconstructing it. But basically, it's, their foundations, support walls. The exterior walls are clad with Indiana limestone, large stones that are anywhere from 6 to 12 inches wide and deep, and then we will put them back on the building. So, doors, windows, the exterior stone. The church will look exactly as it looked. Actually, it'll be stronger because of the new foundations and modern building methods for the walls and so forth. It'll last another 200 years.
Okay, wow, that's amazing that you can do that. So it's almost taking it down brick by brick, as it were, and then just building it back up again.
Right, we're calling it in a way stone by stone, moved by grace, but it is taking apart practically in reverse order from the way it was built.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Now, why do this? I mean, why move an existing church? Would it be cheaper or easier to just build a new church?
Well, the truth of the matter is, I guess you could go to Home Depot and buy the parts for a church, but actually not really, because they don't sell stained glass. They don't sell statues, and they don't sell, the carvings around the doors and so forth. When we were starting, the process of building a new church, we, of course, thought, well, maybe we could use the stone from an old church around the windows, maybe the doors, which were, very beautiful with wrought iron hinges and so forth that were decorative. So we began to kind of, research that and look into it. We used a few things on the interior of the temporary church we're in now. We're actually in what was built to be the parish hall. And we used some things out of other churches, some statues and Stations of the Cross and so forth. They're very beautiful, beautiful things that really are hard to reproduce in today's world. Started that process, got into looking at one church in Boston. It got complicated because of its particular situation, and it looked like it might not be available, and so we sort of dropped that, and then a church came to our attention in Buffalo, New York. We looked at it, and after looking at it, we went like, well, we could take this. We said, well, why not just take the whole thing? It is actually within 95% of what the architect had drawn for a new structure for us.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's exactly the right amount of space. It's the right configuration. It has a place where you can put, basement into the church, a floor underneath the main church for offices and so forth. I mean, it's just really quite uncanny. The architect, who's not Catholic, I think he's a Southern Baptist. I think he was about ready to convert.
There you go. that gives new meaning to the phrase "God works in mysterious ways." They're a little bit cliche,
absolutely.
But there you go. Well, about how long is this move going to take?
Right now we are the only thing that's holding us up from going forward. We've done an incredible amount of research. We've had laser studies done of the building. Stone people looked at it. All sorts of people who do preservation or restoration of marble and paintings and plaster work. And we've had 3 very large construction companies from Atlanta who've taken crews up there and given us estimates of what the cost is and what they foresee as any problems. And actually, the truth of the matter is it's really not problematic. It's basically taking materials from that church that you'd have to get from somewhere and using them to rebuild the church. At the moment, the only thing that's holding us back is, funding. We need to raise money for this. But we have such a large interest from our own parishioners, Catholics in Atlanta, Catholics all over the United States, but even outside the Catholic Church, from Protestant groups who go, well, this is green, this is preservation, this is about a church, and this may be a way that we could save some of our own churches.
There you go. Church recycling, I guess. It's
church recycling. Well, it's just such a beautiful project. I mean, when you think about it, the preservation of the beauty of that gorgeous church in Buffalo, and it means a lot, I think, to former parishioners in Buffalo who have seen the church closed and it's possibly going to deteriorate, and they would be able to see it come to Atlanta and to become a thriving Catholic church again. And they could visit on the way from Buffalo to Florida.
Well, very good. Well, next time I'm back home in Atlanta, I'll have to come visit Mary Our Queen Church and see how it all looks once it's all put together. Father Dye, thank you so much for being a part of Currents today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Well, an interesting solution there to a thorny problem. And, they say that it's really kind of a cost-saving measure as well, because estimates of the move are about $15 million. Mm-hmm. Estimates of building a new church are about $45 million. Wow. So it's like a big, save $30 million coupon they're getting.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Yeah. And there's obviously the history of that church, right. And you're attaching yourself to something that's already been in existence. I mean, we've seen it done with houses and historic places over the years, but it kind of makes sense because we recently, I think, said on Currents that Atlanta or that area is one of the fastest growing places for Catholicism, and so it makes sense that it would be going there.
Right, and like Father Dye said toward the end of that interview, it's almost like church recycling, mm-hmm. It's kind of a very green way to do it.
Yeah, Echo Church.
Right. He said, we could go to Home Depot and buy some planks and some supplies and stuff and build a building. But this way you got all the history that comes with the church and the beautiful stained glass and everything. So yeah, it's a unique way to do it, but it's very interesting and very economical as well.
Terrific. Well, stay with us. There's much more current straight ahead. You'll meet a living saint from the New Orleans Saints. Super Bowl champion quarterback Drew Brees talks about football and faith when we come back. That was quite a game.
Yes, it was.
Well, unless you are living on another planet, which you're probably not, thankfully, you get to watch Currents here. You know that the New Orleans Saints won their very first Super Bowl last night. No more Aints, total Saints. It was a big night for the Big Easy, and it meant a lot for the city that has been struggling to recover ever since Hurricane Katrina 4.5 years ago.
A whole lot of people saying who dat now.
Who dat?
Somebody who played a big role in the Saints' big night last night was Drew Brees. He's the team's Catholic quarterback. Yeah, he's been an active part of a lot of charitable organizations in his adopted home of New Orleans, and he sees his job as more than just tossing a football, as we hear from CNN's Joe Carter.
You know, I felt like coming here was a calling. I felt like it was my destiny.
When you're a Saint, you belong to New Orleans.
The sounds are different these days in New Orleans. The cries are gone, and the cheers have returned. Much different even from when Drew Brees signed with the Saints in 2006, just 197 days removed from one of the greatest tragedies in American history.
That was definitely a defining moment in my life, and one that brought me to New Orleans with the sense that, you know, this is a calling for me. This is an opportunity that I have to not only come to a city and be a part of the rebuilding of an organization, but also the rebuilding of a city and a community and a region.
When he signed with the Saints, Brees was coming off major shoulder surgery, his career at a crossroads. The Big Easy provided a chance for both the city and its quarterback to make a comeback that would have to be big and certainly not easy.
At times, you know, God's going to put you in a position where you kind of wonder, man, why is this happening to me, or why is this happening to us? And yet, you know that it's happening for a reason. You know it's there to make you stronger and to give you the opportunity to accomplish something later on, which here we are.
Through his Brees Dream Foundation, Drew has spent years working just as hard off the field as he has rebuilding the Saints on it. And in a city familiar with voodoo, Brees has found a kindred spirit in his head coach, Sean Payton, who's pumped life back into the team's fans and money back into the community.
I think all of us as coaches and players, you know, have that responsibility to help. And certainly in that city at that time, in that region, not just that city, it pulled on you.
It pulled Brees and Payton to help at places like George Washington Carver High School in the Upper Ninth Ward, where they were part of raising over $1 million to build a new sports complex in an area ravaged by the hurricane.
The rebuilding process of the school into this community is certainly was not on the job description, I'm sure, for those guys, but it's something that they've really embraced and are doing a great job at it.
When you do that kind of thing, you become a part of the fabric immediately. You're saying, look, I don't just play here, I live here, I love here, I want to be here, and I want to help make the situation better.
The gales that blew through the city of New Orleans that August day were powerful and life-changing. The strong breeze that has followed ultimately hopes to have the same effect someday.
CNN's Joe Carter there. Such a cool story and such a cool game last night. You couldn't help but root for the Saints.
It was so. I went in rooting for the Saints. I mean, being from Pensacola, you know, having lived there for a couple of years anyway, everybody was a big Saints fan. All my friends down there, a lot of them went over to New Orleans to go watch the game.
Right.
And it is so nice to see him as a role model and, you know, sort of, I don't know, just some integrity back in a sports figure. We've had so many sort of stories of people
with
that
the whole Michael Vick thing, and you know, there have been several others like that over the years. But yeah, it's nice to have someone, and he's reaching out, and he said, you know, he looks at it as kind of a calling, you know, for him to be there, to be so blessed, and to be able to give back to the community is a really big thing.
Did you have a favorite commercial? Did the Super Bowl ad?
I must say there was a particular brand of candy bar, which I won't mention, but the commercial with Betty White. Oh my gosh.
She was so funny, when they tackled her.
Hilarious.
I know, and then the other guy popped up too, and they're both like 85 or something.
It was Abe Vigoda. Yeah, I had no idea that was even him until our news director told me. But it was Abe Vigoda from Fish and Barney Miller. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's what it was, Barney Miller. I knew that. So see, this was fun because I actually watched it at my friend's house in Queens, and so they made this amazing Greek dinner, and we were eating spanakopita and watching the Super Bowl. I mean, it was really a lot of fun. But the idea of being entertained as much by the commercials as by the game itself was great. And after Katrina and all of that, you really did feel as though the whole city of New Orleans was wrapping their arms around this team.
Absolutely.
And they were wishing them well. And because it was sort of, you know, down south in Miami, a lot of those folks came down and gave them their support in person, too, which was really great. So, who dat?
Well, that's right, who dat? And as you said, no more ain'ts, it's Saints all the way now. Well, that's it for this edition of Currents. Coming up tomorrow, religion and wrestling? Yeah, that's right.
From football to wrestling.
I know, it's like sports week here on Currents. I'll take you to what may be one of the most unusual fundraisers you have ever seen. It was a lot of fun, so I'll tell you more about that coming up.
You hit that one on Saturday.
I hit that one on Saturday. It was a lot of fun, and they tried to get me into the ring, but you're going to have to see how that played out coming up on tomorrow's show.
Does it fare better than the Irish step dancing thing you did?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe on par. We'll have to see.
All right. Well, remember, you don't even need a TV to watch Currents. You can always catch us online at currentsny.net. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Have a great night.